Today's story is titled, I Can See Guardian Angels. I Think One is Trying to Kill Me, by FeralEntity. The link to the story is in the description below. Please enjoy. Matthew 18:10. Their angels do always behold the face of my Father. I have always been able to see them. For as long as I can remember, I've been able to see what people call guardian angels. No one else ever could. I learned that early. When I was a child, I asked my mother why the woman at church had something standing behind her. I told her it looked wrong. My mother squeezed my hand and said it was unbecoming for a young lady to search such things, so I stopped asking. I alone saw them everywhere after that, hovering just over someone's shoulder, gliding behind them in grocery store aisles, standing silently at the foot of hospital beds. They leaned in when someone whispered secrets into a phone. They watched over exams in classrooms. They bowed their heads during prayer. No one ever looked where I was looking. The angels, however, sometimes looked back. Not with curiosity, not with concern, just awareness. They never spoke to me, never followed me, never lingered. They simply existed to remain with the person they were bound to, and I existed separately. That is, until recently. Psalms 91:11. For he will command the angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. I never noticed one for myself. I would see them beside other people, attached to someone else, resting a hand on a shoulder while they cried, or leaning close to a newborn in its stroller. They were present for everything: joy, grief, boredom. They moved through a person's life without interruption, existing quietly alongside it. Some of them looked at me in passing, not with interest, not with recognition, just acknowledgement. The way you might glance at a stranger in a waiting room. They always returned their attention to the one they belonged to. I never thought much of that. Some people had them, some didn't. I assumed I was simply one of the latter. Once, on my walk home from work, I thought I saw one standing alone in an alley I passed every day. It wasn't hovering. It wasn't turned toward anyone. It was just there. I didn't stop to look. I told myself it belonged to someone I couldn't see yet. Someone just inside a building or just out of view. By the time I reached the end of the block, I'd already dismissed it. Out of sight, out of mind. The next time I noticed it, I was getting ready for work. I don't know how much time had passed since the first glimpse. Days, maybe longer. Time has a way of smoothing over things you don't understand, especially when they don't insist on being remembered. I had just stepped out of the shower and was crossing my apartment, still wrapped in a towel, when I passed the window. My unit sat high enough that I rarely thought about being seen from below. That morning, I looked down. In the field behind my building, just on the edge of the tree line, something stood motionless. This time, I didn't catch it by accident. I stopped and looked. The dawn hadn't fully broken, and the light flattened everything into silhouettes. I could only see its shape, tall, upright, its edges blurring where shadow met mist. It resembled the other guardian angels I'd seen, at least in outline, but it wasn't positioned beside anyone. It wasn't angled toward a door or a window or a passing figure. It simply stood there, watching nothing, or waiting. I studied it the way I always studied angels, carefully, methodically, letting my eyes trace its outline, searching for some invisible tether that might explain it. There was none. I glanced down to my notepad to document this encounter. As I look back up, it's gone. No sound, no movement, no retreat towards a person, just absence. For the first time in my life, I considered something I had never allowed myself to before. Could one belong to me? The thought felt almost embarrassing. I had gone my entire life without one. I had made peace with that. Angels followed people. They stayed near them. They were constant. This had been distant, detached. And why now? Still, the question lingered longer than it should have. I finished getting dressed. I left for work. The day passed the way days always did. But even then, I couldn't stop thinking about how far away it had been. Hebrew 13:2. Be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares. The first time I asked my mother, I was very young. "Who is the man standing behind you?" She turned instinctively, as if she expected someone to be there. When she saw nothing, she looked back at me and smiled. Not indulgent, not dismissive, just gentle. "Behind me?" I nodded. She studied my face for a moment, like she was deciding whether I was joking. "Well," she said carefully, "maybe that's my guardian angel." I remembered that pause, the way she chose the answer instead of blurting it out. "Everyone has one," she added, tapping my nose lightly. "You do too." She told me what she'd been taught growing up, that when someone you loved passed away, they were in heaven, that God sometimes sends angels to watch over us, protect us, guide us. "My guardian angel could be your Uncle Kenny," she said. "I like to think he keeps an eye on me." Uncle Kenny had died before I was born. I only knew him from photographs. "That's not him," I told her. She laughed softly. "Sweetheart, angels don't look the way we do. Not anymore. The Bible says they have wings. They're beautiful, radiant." She pulled out one of her children's Bible storybooks, the kind with glossy pages and golden halos. Angels with soft faces and sweeping white wings, gentle hands, kind eyes. While she talked about heaven and love and protection, I kept looking over her shoulder, at the thing standing there. I had only ever seen my uncle in still photographs, but I knew, even as a child, that this was not him. My uncle had been shorter than my mother. The figure behind her stretched nearly to the ceiling. It didn't shift when she shifted. It didn't breathe. It simply remained. The most unsettling of all, it had no eyes. Psalm 34:18. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. As I grew older, I learned to ask people carefully about their guardian angels, gently, casually, enough to understand why one followed them. Jenny Hartwell was known around school as the emo girl. She kept to herself, but one day, as she moved through the hallway, I noticed a guardian angel trailing behind her. They were never identical. Some were taller, some slight, some broad, some thin. Their forms varied the way people's did. Their surfaces varied too, if you could call it a surface. They didn't have skin, not exactly. They were opaque, somehow see-through, but never empty. I could see through them, but not clearly. Everything behind them warped and blurred, milky and wavering. Some shimmered like opal, others rippled like light on water. No two were the same, much like people. Jenny Hartwell's angel was no taller than the rest of us 12-year-olds. It stood unnervingly close behind her, its form a muted, velvety red. Not bright, not violent, just deep, saturated, heavy. Unlike my mother's, this one had eyes. Pearl white and sunken, they caught the low fluorescent light of the hallway and held it. When I approached Jenny for the first time, her angel turned to look at me before she did. It had no mouth, no brows, no eyelids, nothing that should have conveyed emotion. And yet, as it stared into me, I felt something unmistakable settle in my chest. Sorrow. Jenny turned a moment later. "What do you want?" I wanted to know if you'd like to sit with me at lunch." It seemed like a better icebreaker than, "Hey, has anyone close to you died recently?" She blinked, clearly not expecting that. Then she looked me over once, quick, practiced. "Why?" she asked. People don't usually sit with me for fun." A pause. "What's the catch?" she asked. "Is this a joke or something?" "No," I said quickly. "I just wanted to get to know you. I think we'd get along." She narrowed her eyes, suspicion settling back into place. Her guardian angel leaned forward with her, closing the space between us until its pearl-white eyes hovered just centimeters from mine. If it could breathe, I think I would have felt it. Still, I didn't step back. "Just one lunch," I said. "If we don't get along, I'll leave you alone. I promise." For a long moment, the angel remained there, staring through me. Then, just as suddenly, it withdrew, slipping back into place behind her. Jenny exhaled softly. "Fine," she said. "One lunch." She reflected for a moment. "Don't make it weird." As she turned to leave, her angel moved with her in perfect synchronicity. Together, they disappeared into the current of the hallway crowd. Of course, my interest had been entirely selfish. I wanted to learn more about the angels, about why hers looked the way it did. But the lunch went well, and then another after that. She was right about one thing. Neither of us fit clearly into the hallway hierarchy, just for different reasons. I didn't care. Jenny Hartwell turned out to be the best friend I could have asked for. Ecclesiastes 3:11. He has made everything beautiful in its time. Also, he has put eternity into man's heart, yet so that he cannot find out what God has done from the beginning to the end. Yesterday, I was mid-breakfast. I don't eat as often as I should, but when I do, I enjoy making my own meals. Something about the routine grounds me. When I finally sat down to eat, I found myself glancing out the window again, the same one overlooking the back lot of my complex. It was a warm Sunday morning, and people were taking advantage of it. At least 24 of my neighbors were scattered across the grass, enjoying the first real hints of spring. The majority had guardian angels. One hovered close to a mother, which seemed common enough. Another followed 2 small children, twins, who appeared to share a single 2-headed angel. I'd seen that variation before, though rarely. The behavior was different too. The 2-headed angel trailed behind the children carefully, as if trying not to disturb their chaos, or perhaps trying to contain it. I could only guess. I often found myself wondering what their intentions really were. Sometimes I gave them small personalities they likely didn't have, just to make them easier to understand, something my mind could hold on to in place of the unknowable. After my mother first told me they were angels and read to me from the Bible, I became deeply interested in the text. As I grew up, I read it cover to cover more times than I could count. I wouldn't call myself traditionally religious. When you spend your life seeing things that contradict the word of the Lord, belief becomes complicated. Still, I went to church every Sunday, listened to sermons, and sat through Sunday school, hoping I'd find answers there. Could these lessons explain what they were? Why they were here? Could I learn how to understand them? Communicate with them even? In short, no. But my mother was proud of my enthusiasm, so I kept going until the day she passed. In my mid-teens, I branched out, studying other religions. Shintoism held my attention for a while, with its belief in spirits inhabiting the mortal world. For a long time, I thought I was close to something, but none of their entities or deities quite matched what I saw every day. Still, I kept it in the back of my mind, wondering if perhaps this was something humanity had never fully understood, or worse, something we'd stopped worshipping altogether. As I was lost in thought, poking at the remnants of my breakfast, I glanced back down to the families in the back lot. Just off to the edge of everyone, something caught my eye. The same angel I'd seen before. It had stood at the far end of the grass, near the tree line, separated from the clusters of neighbors by a wide strip of open space. I leaned closer to the glass. In the full wash of late morning sunlight, its silhouette sharpened. It was tall, taller than the others nearby. That much I could tell immediately. And darker. Not the soft shimmer of opal or the wavering translucence I was used to. This was dense. The light struck it and didn't pass through cleanly. It clung. Even from this distance, I could see that its surface wasn't uniform. The black wasn't flat. It gleamed in places, caught with slick browns, streaking faintly with something sickly yellow. I couldn't make out the fine details of its face, but there was structure there. Hollows where light should have reflected, a suggestion of sockets. And then I noticed its outline. Arms. Not implied, not briefly formed and withdrawn, defined. Long enough that even from 5 floors up, their proportions looked wrong. They hung at its sides, too long, too thin, ending in elongated shapes that suggested hands, too defined to fade back into its mass. Most of the time, I never noticed arms on them. It was as if their bodies were draped in fabric, never showing legs or feet. They simply glided behind their host with a lithe, effortless motion. On the rare occasions I'd see one reach out, perhaps to caress a child's face. It would extend a hand briefly, then retract it again, as though it was never there. Another anomaly, the hands never emerged from a fixed place. They appeared wherever necessary, often pushing out from the center of their mass, as if something inside was reaching outward before being yanked back in. That had terrified me at first, in a way I never fully shook. I'd wonder if things could be trapped inside them. As far as I could tell, though, this was simply how their anatomy worked. That being said, for this one to have arms that were always there, was both fascinating and deeply unsettling. As I took in all its features, I noticed something else, something wrong. Often, these angels watch the world around their host. Sometimes it's protective, sometimes it's curious. They observe what their person observes. My mother's angel, Uncle Kenny, would often watch me as I moved around the house, even when my mother was distracted and unaware of my presence. It felt less like surveillance and more like acknowledgement, as if it simply knew I was there. Other times, it would lean far over the table to watch me while I did homework or studied religion. These moments were never long. It would always return to my mother's side once it seemed to get whatever it wanted from me. I wasn't the only one it did this to. When my mother had guests over, it behaved the same way, leaning in, watching them closely, as if measuring their intentions. None of this was new. So when I noticed the black tar angel staring in my direction, and only my direction, I understood something immediately. It wasn't watching the people around it. It wasn't acknowledging the children playing nearby, or the adults passing too close. A teenage boy ran straight through its form without hesitation while chasing a baseball, and still its attention never wavered. It was looking at me. Me, standing in my apartment, behind glass, on the 5th floor. Once I realized this, I stood up so suddenly that my chair toppled over behind me. My breath caught painfully in my throat. This was new. They always fixated on something, on their host, or on whatever comes too close to them. They don't care about anything that exists outside that narrow focus. I don't know who this thing's host is. I don't even know if it has one. So why was it looking at me? I couldn't help but hold its gaze. My breathing was unsteady, a dull ache blooming in my lip as I chewed at it in anxious thought. I closed the blinds. Psalm 91:5. You shall not fear the terror of the night, nor the arrow that flies by day. 7:45 a.m. The next train was going to arrive any minute, and Jenny was late again. It's funny. So much of my life is spent watching angels, cataloging their behaviors, wondering why me, of all people, and yet I somehow manage to stay punctual. Jenny never does. At least she's consistent. I don't think I've ever seen her early to anything. If I'm running behind, I know I'll still get there before she does. The 8 a.m. Liberty Station train to Pineview Station, now boarding. I move towards the center of the car, our usual spot, and lean slightly to my left, letting my bag spill into the empty seat beside me. The train is an interesting place to observe the angels. Harsh fluorescent lights, crowded bodies, limited space. They react to it much like their hosts do, compressing inward, phasing closer until they hover just above their person's head, like a bobber floating above a fishing line. Even here, they perform their small rituals, leaning down to inspect someone standing too close, slowly rotating their head in full circles, fixating on flickering bulbs or reflected movements in the windows. It makes the already packed car feel even tighter, bodies layered with other bodies, space filled twice over. I imagine it would be overwhelming if I weren't used to it by now. The 8 a.m. Liberty Station train to Pineview Station, now departing. Just as the doors begin to slide shut, Jenny slipped inside at the last possible second. She was out of breath, hair shoved into a crooked bun, pajama pants peeking out beneath her button-up. I pulled my bag back into my lap as she collapsed into the seat beside me, immediately launching into an explanation. Something about crosswalks clogged with pedestrians, cyclists training for a marathon, and being chased by chickens. I don't think any of our neighbors own chickens. "You know," I said, once she paused long enough to breathe, "you could take a later class than me. I'm pretty sure your mom would survive you switching your 9 a.m. to an 11 or noon." Jenny's angel, Velvet, as I'd started calling it, settled into place above her, glancing at me before turning its attention to the passing city outside the window. "That's ridiculous," Jenny huffed, finally catching her breath. "How would I bother you if we didn't have any classes together? Besides, after this semester we'll have to start taking major-specific courses, and then I'll never see you. Ever. How do you even major in religion anyway? What do? Study the Dead Sea Scrolls? Starve yourself like Gandhi?" Something like that. As the semester slipped by, Jenny turned out to be right. We saw each other less and less once our classes no longer lined up. We still made time. Coffee dates, study sessions, me helping with her homework more like, long drives to the coast during summer breaks. But even that never felt like enough. Our time together was thinning, stretching itself too far. Still, we always had the train. After graduation, she started her dream career in biology as a laboratory technician. I went into human resources. Even then, we still took the train everywhere, just like it always was. Jenny, brilliant, driven, endlessly capable, was late. The 7:30 p.m. Liberty Station train to Queen's Landing, now boarding. I made my way to the center of the train and took our usual seat, leaning left so my bag could spill into the space beside me. The train always felt crowded, mostly because every passenger was doubled for me. Faces and angels pressed together in layers, overlapping until it became difficult to focus on any one of them for too long. At the last possible moment, Jenny hurried onto the train and dropped into the seat beside me. She launched immediately into a story about work, something involving contaminated petri dishes, pockets full of loose change, and one particularly cranky researcher who apparently believed she was personally responsible for the state of the lab. "So, how's human resources?" she asked. "Anyone quiz you today on the logistical difference between Jesus' crucifixion and Joseph Smith finding the gold plates?" "I don't really see the connection." "You never do," she said. "They just don't get religion like you do." She never missed an opportunity to question my bachelor's degree. Still, it got me a job in HR, so I couldn't complain. While Jenny talked, I noticed Velvet staring at me for longer than usual. What was a typical brief, almost courteous glance lingered instead, unbroken. I tried not to react. I'd learned early on not to acknowledge the angels too openly. I didn't want anyone to think I was crazy. So when Velvet slowly retracted back into Jenny's body, only to push out again from her chest, staring intently into the crowded train car, I couldn't help myself. I stared. Thankfully, Jenny didn't seem to notice where my attention had drifted. I knew she'd never let me live that one down.
Jenny,
I interrupted as she continued recounting her day.
are you alright?
What? Yeah, I'm fine. She looked at me confused. Why?
It's nothing.
I said too quickly.
I just thought I noticed something with how you were talking.
A bad lie. Nope, peachy keen, she said with a grin. Hard to believe this was the same moody girl I'd met years ago. She'd grown into someone softer, brighter, someone I never would have expected. Now stopping at Queen's Landing. That's you, she said, nodding towards the doors. Velvet still hovered strangely, half emerged from her chest, its attention fixed somewhere beyond us. I stood, slinging my bag over my shoulder.
Be careful getting home, okay? I love you.
Don't worry, she laughed. I'm tough. The doors slid open.
See you soon,
she added. Love you too, Cranky. I stepped onto the platform. The doors closed behind me. Proverbs 15:3. The eyes of the Lord are everywhere, keeping watch on the wicked and the good. Work became one of my favorite places to be. Surprisingly, HR afforded me a lot of time to myself when I wasn't dealing with employee disputes or disgruntled clients. It gave me space to think, to revisit the things I'd seen that day, or thumb through my notes and research one more time, hoping something new might finally click. I also enjoyed seeing people's angels on the job with them. The office brought out peculiar variations. Some grew narrow and rigid, their forms drawn tight as if pressed between invisible panes of glass. Others seemed to thin at the edges, their outlines sharpened into something almost angular. I never knew whether the building shaped them or if they arrived that way. Besides that, my favorite pastime at work was watching the angels interact with the office itself. There was something deeply satisfying about seeing one stare intently at a coffee machine while its host waited for a document to print, or hover mere centimeters from the pot as it finished filling. That one especially, I could relate to. Most days ended the same. Paperwork, minor disputes, the occasional termination to preserve the bottom line. That too had its own strange fascination. When their hosts were sad or disappointed, something changed. Not in expression. They don't have expressions. But in presence. They dimmed. As if someone had turned the lights down. They were still there, but harder to see. The office didn't change. A ticking clock, filing forms, approving PTO, mediating minor drama.
Yes, James is allowed to use the copy machine every morning at 9 a.m. He got there first. No, you can't have me write him up for that. Yes, I will still write that down.
I don't particularly mind. This place feels like my kind of safe space. I find peace in repetition. Click, tick, print, shuffle, assign, ring, knock, repeat. Knock, knock, knock. The cycle continues.
Yes, come in,
I said without looking up from my computer.
Hi. Yes, I wanted to talk to you about a potential leave of absence. You see, I have family and...
I glanced up mid-sentence and catch myself staring a little too long. Luckily, I think he assumes I'm sizing him up, trying to intimidate him, not studying the features of his angel. One eye is a rarity among angels, something I only see once in a blue moon. While his host nervously stutters through the details of his request, a pencil-thin angel hovers just over his shoulder. Papery white skin drapes loosely around its frame, as if it doesn't quite fit its body. The same skin hangs from its head, obscuring any clear suggestion of a face. The only distinct feature is a single, enormous eye in the center of its head, perfectly round, pale yellow, flecked with orange. The no pupil.
Fascinating.
I murmured before I could stop myself.
Sorry?
He asked, pulling me back into the room.
Your leave of absence is approved.
I say, still not breaking eye contact with the angel.
Enjoy your trip.
He stands quickly, thanking me far too many times, and hurries out of my office. Even as he rushes out and his angel follows, it maintains its stare, its unblinking eye fixed on me until the last possible moment. As my day is winding down and coming to an end, I thumb through the stacks of paperwork that have made their way to my desk. Dispute, leave of absence, workplace safety seminar, complaint, dispute, PTO request. I paused. I picked up the complaint, a carefully clipped together packet with no supervisor notes, no responses attached. The complaint shouldn't have been on my desk. Intake reports like this are meant to pass through the department heads first. They're handled, documented, and resolved before HR ever sees them. This one skipped all of that. I opened it. The issue itself was trivial. According to the report, reception had refused to let him into the building restroom without a visitor's pass. He claimed he explained himself, that he'd been polite, and he only needed a moment. The receptionist had insisted on procedure. Security had been called. He'd been asked to leave. On paper, it was nothing. Exactly the kind of thing that normally died at the front desk. What stood out was how he wrote about it. There were paragraphs and paragraphs, explanations instead of complaints. He spent more time describing his intentions than the incident itself. How he hadn't meant to make anyone uncomfortable. How he understood rules existed for a reason. How easily people can misinterpret someone who was just trying to handle a basic human need. He emphasized, more than once, that he only needed the restroom. That he only needed our restroom. That it would have been easier if someone had just let him in. I closed the folder halfway and picked up the phone. The intake extension rang twice before someone answered. I gave my name, then said,
Hey, quick question. I've got a complaint here that should have gone through a department head first. Do you know why it came straight to HR?
There was a pause, paper shifting, a breath.
He insisted,
the woman said.
Wouldn't leave until we told him someone from HR would look at it. Did he say why? No, just that it was important. That procedure was being misused.
Another pause.
And you're the least swamped today,
she added, apologetic.
Right,
I said. I hung up and looked back at the file.
What a weird way to end the day.
I sighed and began processing the complaint. I decided to take the train home today. It was slower than walking, but after the day I'd had, I wanted some extra time to reflect. I thought about that one-eyed angel again, trying to recall if I'd ever seen one like it before. Its loose, flowing skin captivated me in a way that was hard to shake. I gripped the strap of my bag as I waited on the platform. People trickled in around me, the faint shimmer of their angels catching my peripheral vision.
The 6 p.m. Oceanic Station train to Queen's Landing arriving soon.
My ears burned. Late again. I counted the seconds, the soft murmur of the crowd blending into a dull, monotonous hum. I glanced at the angels, their hosts' faces blurring together. Peach fuzz. Something that crackled like autumn leaves. Black, empty eyes. Pinholes. Faint lines where I should have been. Details cataloged, then immediately forgotten. I just wanted to be home.
The 6 p.m. Oceanic Station train to Queen's Landing now boarding.
I made my way to the center of the train and took my usual seat, leaning to the left to let my bag spill into the seat beside me. People flooded in, filling seats and standing space. Their angels hovered above them, leaning towards flickering fluorescent lights, phasing through the walls, spinning slowly to watch the rush of bodies. The doors slid shut. The train lurched forward. Jenny wasn't coming. I held my breath for a moment, then exhaled. Leaning back, my eyes drifted over the crowd. blurry faces, angels, chatter. Just as I looked down at my hands again, something caught my eye. Across the train, in a small break in the crowd, the black tar angel. It was already staring at me. Dense rolling fog swallowed the path as I took slow, deliberate steps forward. Angels pushed up from the earth to watch me pass. I glanced at each of them as they appeared to me, then back down at my feet. I wasn't here for them. I stopped in front of the last headstone in the row.
"Hi, Jenny,"
I whispered. Velvet slowly lifted from the soil. We held eye contact. Then it rose fully, curling around the headstone, cradling it. Her mom called me frantically, begging me to check on her since I lived closer. I was too late. She was already gone. Velvet lay with her on the ground, holding her closely, an arm protruding from the center of its mass to stroke her hair. The note was short. "I'm sorry. He ruined me." That night, when Velvet was acting off on the train, someone followed her off at her stop. I don't know all the details, just that he hurt her. I stayed with her for a few days afterwards, until she insisted she was okay again. She spoke softly, avoided my eyes, and moved like the world had grown heavier overnight. Even then, I kept checking in, visiting her work and apartment. She promised me she was okay, that she just needed time. I wish I didn't get off the train that day. Psalm 34:18. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted, and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Silence. The train packed tightly with passengers is silent. I could see mouths moving, toothy grins, a phone lighting up in someone's hand as it rings, but it is silent. I'm surrounded by people, by angels, and none of them can see black tar. None of them can feel my heart begin to pound. At this moment, on this train that always felt overcrowded, I am completely alone. Black tar remains locked onto me. I could see it clearer now. Unnervingly long hands on even longer arms. 3 stubby fingers on each hand, slowly gripping and ungripping. Skin wrapped too tight around its lanky form. Dark sockets where shadows pooled from the light above. It looks wet. Before I realize what I'm doing, I stand up. My hands are shaking. I begin making my way through the train. I don't know what I plan to do once I reach it. Confront it? Its gaze remains unbroken. I don't even know what it can do to me. Angels have rules, structure. They make sense. Black tar does not. No host, no clear intentions, no purpose. This has to end. My muscles tense. I push past the crowd. The closer I get, the worse it looks. Slimy. The train lurches. Everyone jostles. Someone bumps me. I nearly fall. I steady myself. I break eye contact. I quickly look back up. It is gone. My breathing is shallow. I quickly scan the crowd where it was. A mother and daughter, red hair, blue eyes. A bald man attempted to read a newspaper. A young couple holding hands, early 20s. A man holding the handrail, staring out the window as the city passes us by, salt and pepper beard. Angels interspersed between them, bright like the sun, wide frame, pink and blue cotton candy. It's gone. I slowly return to my seat, sinking down. My body shakes, my heart pounds. My eyes sting. A single hot tear burns my cheek. My mind is racing. What would it have done if I made it? A weight shifts beside me. I glance up. The seat I saved had been taken. Luke 8:17. For nothing is hidden that will not be made manifest, nor is anything secret that will not be known and come to light. After what happened yesterday on the train, I find myself struggling to focus at work. This angel, this anomaly, has been haunting me, and I don't know what to do. There are rules, patterns, answers. Things angels adhere to. This one doesn't. I don't understand it. I need to understand it. Understand why it's wrong. Before I realize it, the day is gone. It's already 6:30. I was supposed to clock out nearly an hour ago, and an enormous stack of paperwork that needed to be finished today still sits untouched on my desk. I don't even remember anyone coming into my office. I let out a heavy sigh and finally clock out far later than I should have. It's almost 9 p.m. I missed the last train by no more than 15 minutes. Not that I would want to ride it again anyway. When I stepped outside, I'm greeted by near total darkness, broken only by a few scattered streetlights dotting the sidewalk. A new moon. I know the walk home well. I've taken it countless times. That doesn't make being nearly blind out here any less unsettling. I started the 20-minute walk home. Few people are out. A jogger on the opposite sidewalk, the kind homeless man I pass most evenings. It's so dark I can see their angels more clearly than I could see them. The translucence absorbs what little light there is and reflects it back at me. Nothing distinct, just clearer shapes where bodies should be. As the last street lamp disappears behind me and I round the corner of my building, tension creeps up my spine. The pitch darkness presses in, sharper than usual, heavy. I pass the alley I walk by every day. I don't usually look down it. Tonight, I do. The unmistakable feeling of being watched. I stop, hold my breath, peer into the deeper black. I can't make out details, but I don't need to. The Black Tar Angel. We are alone. No one nearby to fracture my focus. This has to end. Angels have rules. They cannot physically touch or be touched. All I have to do is swipe my arm through it, prove it's nothing, prove it's still bound to the same laws as the rest. I step into the mouth of the alley. The tar mass looms ahead, thick enough to swallow the faint ambient light behind it. It doesn't react. I steady my breathing, look up at its indistinguishable face, raise my arm, and swing. My hand passes through the tar. Relief flickers. Then something solid closes around my wrist. The angel's arm rises at the same moment, thick and blunt, perfectly aligned with the pressure tightening around me. I don't process it at first. I just stare. A cold, rough grip encircles my wrist. 3 stubby fingers press into my skin. This is wrong. I lift my other hand and swipe at the angel again. It goes straight through. The grip on my trapped wrist tightens. Then my other wrist is seized the same way. Solid, unyielding, synchronized with the tar's movement. The angel, this thing, is touching me. It's breaking the rules. I scream. I thrash, yank, twist. The rough, cold digits scrape against my wrists as I struggle. I plead, to a god I don't believe in, to make it stop, to make it let me go. Headlights suddenly flood the street behind me. Loud music blasts through the night air. The tar jerks backward. The pressure vanishes. I don't think. I wrench my hands free and run towards the light. A car screeches to a stop. The overwhelming swell of marijuana hits me first. Jimmy Eats World blares from the speakers. I have never been so glad to see stoners in my life. 2 clearly intoxicated late teen boys stare at me from the front seats. "Whoa, are you okay, lady?" One of them asks.
Hi.
My voice shakes. I look down at my wrists and the headlights. They're red.
Can you give me a ride home? It's right up the road.
It's only 5 more minutes away, but I can't walk alone again. They nod. I climb in the back seat of their 1999 Honda Accord. As we pull away, I look back down the alley. It's empty. Psalm 69, 1-2. Save me, O God, for the waters are come in unto my soul. I sink in deep mire, where there is no standing. I am come into deep waters where the floods overflow me. I lay motionless in bed, staring up at the ceiling. Dim moonlight illuminates the room. I take a moment to orient myself. It's quiet. I trace the outline of my closet with my eyes, count the hinges reflecting in the moonlight. I think about Jenny. My focus shifts to the wall, where photos of us together still hang. In the dim light, I take in her happy face. I look back up to the ceiling before the tears start to form. My thoughts wander. I doubt I'd be getting back to sleep anytime soon. I think about the angels, velvet, black tar. I think about faith, about how I failed. I've been given this ability, this sight into the unknown. I may not understand a damn thing about these entities, but I've lived with them long enough that I should have known better. I spent my whole life studying, framing, reframing, observing, reading, taking notes, and none of it means a goddamn thing. I'm still just a little girl who knows nothing. A faint shift snaps me out of my thoughts. I move my attention to where the sound came from, a black corner of my room. The moonlight doesn't even penetrate the darkness. My eyes struggle to adjust. Fuzzy spots and swirls fill in the space where my mind can't focus. Movement. I freeze. My breath catches. From the darkness, black tar emerges. I can't move. It slithers towards me, stubby fingers grabbing my bed, gripping the blankets. Gnarled nails catch the fabric as it crawls over top of me. I can't see anything now. It smells like stagnant water. Its body creaks under the tight skin, arms bend backwards before positioning themselves on either side of my head. The moonlight catches something in the dark sockets. The creaking continues and shifts into wet tearing. Tight skin becomes too tight. It stretches thin before shredding apart. Threads of its slimy black flesh hang from its face. Beneath them, a mouth forms. It exhales heavily, unhinging its jaw to reveal rows and rows of jagged teeth that extend far inside of it, disappearing down its throat. Black sludge oozes slowly out of its mouth and onto my face before erupting into an intense scream. It fills my mouth and throat. I cough and sputter, but it keeps coming. My vision fills with the blackness. I peer into the sockets once more. The moonlight catches something. Or maybe it doesn't. I can't tell anymore. I am drowning in tar. I shoot out of my bed, gasping for air. My heart is racing, the darkness of my bedroom mimicking the tar that filled my vision only moments before. I quickly turned on my bedside lamp. Light pours over the room. The corner is empty. Job 30:26. When I looked for good, then evil came unto me, and when I waited for light, there came darkness. I've taken a leave of absence from work. I can't stop having nightmares. I can't even trust myself to compartmentalize the angels at this point. I've pored over my notes again and again, read the Bible, the Torah, the Quran. Hell, I've read every book of the dead. Nothing. I started researching the supernatural. Spirits, demons, folklore, cryptids. I don't know what it could possibly do for me, but my God, I need an answer. I'm so exhausted. The nightmares have been haunting me for days now. Time is blurring together. The sun comes up and I hardly notice. I've been sitting in my room for 2 hours, staring at the corner of my bedroom. The two walls meet and darkness fills the void. My eyes are heavy. Every blink shows me black tar again. Spots and swirls fill the darkness. I turn on the light. Nothing is there. I tell myself this is what grief looks like. This is what sleep deprivation does to a brain that had spent too long staring at things it couldn't explain. I continue to stare into the corner, now filled with light. My grip loosens on the kitchen knife I've been holding. I have been leaving it in my room with me. I don't know what it could actually do for me against an incorporeal being, but it was the best thing I could come up with. I stay there a moment longer before turning away. With a heavy sigh, I move to the dining room table and sit, staring out into the back lot. It's late. The complex is mostly dark. One man stands near the edge of the lot with his dog. An angel trails behind him while the dog does its business. I don't focus on the details, just the shape of it. The angel lags a step behind its host, but its attention seems fixed on the dog. I look away. I do my final rounds for the night. I check the locks, front door, deadbolt, chain. The windows, closed, latched, curtains drawn. This is a ridiculous ritual, of course. Angels don't obey the law of physics. They can just phase through the locked doors if they wanted. I try not to think about it. I check the bathroom last. I don't know when that started. I keep thinking I see it in the mirrors. Nothing has changed there. The mirror reflects me back, tired, hollow-eyed, clutching a knife that hung at my side. I avoid looking behind myself as I filled my cupped hands with water to wash my face. The pipes rattled somewhere in the walls. I flinch anyway. When I return to my room, the corner looks the same as it always did. Harmless, bright. I turn the light off. Darkness rushes back in. I wait. Nothing comes. 2 Corinthians 11:14. And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. I've been out of work for nearly a month now. I told them about Jenny, about how I never really handled it properly. They said take all the time I need. I haven't seen black tar in a while. The nightmares persist, but they have begun to fade. I still think I see it in my peripheral vision. I've started to pay attention to the other angels again, albeit not as much as before. I think I just need a break. Over the past month, I've left my apartment 3 times. I've been keeping track. There's a cafe I used to enjoy about a 10-minute walk from here. I think I can manage it. It's been quiet lately. It shouldn't hurt to go outside. I watch the world carefully as I walk to the cafe, checking every angel to make sure black tar isn't among them. I'm still jumpy. A tall shape catches my eye, a shadow shifting near a doorway. My heart spikes. I brace myself. It's never him. Just another angel, or nothing at all. I'm still not sleeping. It shows. Inside, the cafe is busy. I pause just past the door and scan the room. A dark-haired family in line. A middle-aged man with a salt and pepper beard. A muscular man in a tank top. An elderly man with a mustache. Enough. I look down and join the line. The cashier smiles when it's my turn. "Long time no see. What can I get you?" I glanced up. He has an angel, orange and yellow, like a tangerine. That's all I register.
Medium vanilla latte and a croissant, please.
My usual. I carry my order to the corner booth, the booth Jenny and I used to sit in. I stand there a moment before sitting. I sip my coffee. The booths around me fill with quiet conversation and the scrape of chairs. I focus on the table instead, on the steam arising from my cup. At some point, the noise softens. I don't remember anyone leaving. When I finally look up, the cafe is thinned to only a few scattered tables. The booths around mine sit empty. Ecclesiastes 12:14. For God shall bring every work into judgment, with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. The walk home is uneventful. My apartment is as quiet and still as I left it. I flick on the living room lights. The silence is overwhelming, almost peaceful. Maybe black tar had just been a manifestation of my grief, my guilt. Maybe it really was my angel all along, just one my mind created to fill a void. I exhale. I feel lighter, like I've been holding my breath this whole time. Jenny is gone. I can't let my life spiral anymore. She'd never let me live it down. I move to the dining room and sit at the table, looking over the back lot. It is quiet, still, frozen in time. No one is out there. The last remnants of dusk fading into night. I sit quietly, and for the first time in years, just relax. Silence. No words, no movement, no angels, no workplace disputes. It is nice. I reflect on it all, on angels, my life. Maybe that night in the alleyway, I just imagined what I wanted to see in the dark, that whatever grabbed me was no angel at all. Maybe I'm just sick. Maybe this is my punishment for never believing. Maybe it's time to try something new. I grab my copy of the Bible and head towards my room. Not to study, just to read. I don't think I've ever actually just read to enjoy. My bedroom is dark. The corner that vexed me so remains a black hole. Spots and swirls fill the darkness. I flick on the light. Nothing. An empty corner. I let out a slow breath. A dark shape in my peripheral remains. I don't know why I don't register it at first. I would have any other time. Movement. A shift. Before I can react, I'm slammed to the floor. The air punches from my lungs. Weight crushes my chest, forcing breath from me. Filthy black tar, reflective brown, sickly yellow. I stared into the face of black tar. "Please," a voice whispers, "don't scream." I tear my gaze from black tar's empty sockets and look down through the shimmering muck. A salt and pepper beard. I couldn't take it anymore. You stopped coming to work. I waited. I kept waiting. Black tar slowly recedes, aligning itself perfectly with the figure on top of me. Its elongated hands overlap his own, gruff, hair-covered fingers swallowed by 3 stubby tar replicas. Above me, a middle-aged man. Brown eyes, salt and pepper beard, a waxy yellow birthmark peeking beneath it. His mouth keeps moving, but my ears ring. I only come back to myself when something cold and rough drags across my cheek. His hand. "I never could have imagined you being so soft." Panic detonates inside me. I thrash, kick, twist beneath him. His weight pins me in place. This is no nightmare. I glance toward my bedside table. The knife. With everything I have left, I kick the table. The knife clatters to the floor beside us. He flinches. I lunge. My fingers close around the handle. I don't think. I drive it upward into his thigh. Resistance. Then a sickening give. He screams. Hot blood spills over my hand. Black tar convulses with him, its form distorting, flickering like static. I rip the blade free. He grabs for me, misses. I scramble back, knife still in my hand, and bolt for the door. Behind me, a wet gasp, the scrape of his shoes on hard wood. I reach the front door and fumble for the locks. Deadbolt, chain. My hands are slick. The deadbolt sticks. He slams into me from behind, pinning me to the door. "I would have never guessed you were so feisty." Sick pleasure bleeds through the pain in his voice. Black tar's hands brace against the door on either side of my head. My vision blurs. White spots burst across it. His injured leg buckles, but he doesn't fall. He grabs a fistful of my hair and yanks me backward. I swing the knife blindly, feel it graze something. He howls. I wrenched free and stagger down the hallway. The bathroom is closer than the door. I throw myself inside and slam the door, shoving the lock into place just as his weight crashes against it. My chest heaves. My mind fractures. How did I never see it? He was always there. His angel has been unintentionally giving him away, and I never noticed. A violent thud shakes the door. "I didn't mean to scare you," he whimpers. You're better face to face.
I panicked. I couldn't let you see me first.
The handle rattles. Then, Black Tar's hand phases through the wood. It curls around my face. I don't feel pressure, not really, but I feel the memory of it, the echo of that scratchy caress.
I didn't mean for what happened to your friend,
He says, irritated now.
I got off on the wrong stop. I didn't know your schedule yet. She wasn't supposed to.
A pause.
She wasn't the first.
The words hang there.
It's a basic human need.
He continues, voice sharpening.
To be heard, to be seen. If she had just listened, I was ready for it to be you. When I missed you, I couldn't help myself.
He exhales, almost tender.
She was an accident.
Accident. Jenny was an accident. No, Jenny was practice. The tar hand tightens, not solid, but present, flickering, hungry. And suddenly, I understand. The angels were never messengers. They were never divine. They were reflections, mirrors of souls they followed. This man's soul is rotten, coated in hunger and entitlement and decay, and it shines like black tar. The door shudders again. The handle jerks violently. The tar hand spasms, sliding from my face to my throat to my chest, searching.
Open the door.
He begs now.
I can't be denied any longer. I need you.
He pleads. He rages. He whines. He apologizes. And yet, I am calm. I look down at the knife in my hand, soaked in his blood. It's cold. The flailing slows. He falters. I unlock the door. He stands there, black tar wrapped tightly around him, everything but his face swallowed in filth. He expects fear. He expects obedience. I don't look away. He hesitates. This is the moment. Judgment. The blade drives into his throat, into him, into the dark. His body jerks. Black tar jerks with it, perfectly synchronized. Its elongated hands flying to its own neck as though it had too been cut. He staggers back, choking. Blood forces its way between his fingers. The tar rips violently, surface shuddering like oil struck by a stone. He claws at the knife, at me, at nothing. The angel contorts, arms bending at impossible angles before snapping back into place. He collapses against the wall, slides down, leaves a dark smear behind him. The tar follows, folding downward with him, settling around his slumped body. His eyes lose focus, his jaw slackens, but the angel does not disappear. It remains, towering, viscous, clinging to him even in death. Its surface stills, no more flicker, no more distortion, only rot made visible. Silence, real silence. No fluorescent hum, no distant traffic, no whispering shapes at the edge of my vision, just my breathing. It comes sharp at first, then slower. I wait for something, a voice, a reckoning. Nothing comes. The air smells metallic, heavy. I step around him and return to the bathroom mirror. Blood freckles my cheeks, my neck, my collarbone. It looks darker against my skin than it should. My hands begin to shake now. The adrenaline drains, leaving something hollow and wide in its place. I turn on the faucet. The water runs pink, then lighter, then clear. I look up. Something tall stands behind me in the mirror. Ivory, radiant. Too many eyes to count, all of them open, watching. Not oppressive, not suffocating, steady. I look back down. The air feels full. For the first time in my life, I do not feel alone.